Humanity is on the verge of a new age of exploration. We're not just visiting space anymore. We're planning to stay. Long-term missions to the Moon, Mars, and even further are moving from science fiction to concrete engineering plans. But as we prepare to take this giant leap, we face an equally giant problem: the human body. Our bodies evolved for life on Earth, and the harsh, alien environment of space presents an incredible array of challenges. To build a sustainable home beyond our planet, we need more than just powerful rockets. We need a fundamental shift in how we think about life support, a fusion of biology and technology. And surprisingly, the key to this future might be found in one of the oldest and most humble crops on Earth: rice. Today, we're diving into the world of astropharmacy and how genetically engineered, protein-rich rice could become the cornerstone of our multiplanetary future, serving as both food and an on-demand pharmacy in the stars. Let's start with the gauntlet that is space. What exactly happens to a person during a long-duration mission? First, let's talk about gravity, or rather, the lack of it. Here on Earth, the constant pull of gravity is a workout we don't even notice. It puts stress on our musculoskeletal system, which is essential for keeping our bones and muscles strong. In the microgravity of space, this constant stress vanishes. The result is a rapid deterioration of the human body. Astronauts experience a condition called spaceflight osteopenia, which is a frighteningly fast loss of bone density. The cells that build bone, osteoblasts, slow down, while the cells that break down bone, osteoclasts, keep working. This imbalance leads to astronauts losing bone mass at a rate of 1 to 2% per month. To put that in perspective, that's a rate similar to an elderly person with osteoporosis. This doesn't just make bones weaker. It dramatically increases the risk of fractures, which could be a catastrophic event millions of miles from Earth. It's not just the bones. Our muscles also suffer. Without the need to support our weight against gravity, they begin to atrophy. The large anti-gravity muscles in our legs and back are hit the hardest. Astronauts can experience significant loss of muscle mass, strength, and endurance. This isn't just about being unable to lift heavy things. It's about a general deconditioning of the entire body, making even simple tasks more difficult, and recovery upon returning to Earth a long and arduous process. But the physical challenges don't stop there. Beyond the visible effects on bones and muscles, space harbors invisible threats. Earth's magnetic field acts as a protective shield, deflecting most of the harmful ionizing radiation that bombards our solar system from galactic cosmic rays and solar events. Once you leave that shield, you're exposed. This radiation can penetrate spacecraft and human tissue, damaging DNA and increasing the long-term risk of cancer and other degenerative diseases. The immune system also takes a hit. The combined stress of microgravity, radiation, and psychological strain can dysregulate our natural defenses. This makes astronauts more vulnerable to infections. To make matters worse, some studies suggest that bacteria can become more virulent or dangerous in space, while the effectiveness of antibiotics might be reduced. It's a perfect storm for illnesses that are difficult to treat. And finally, we can't ignore the psychological toll. Living in a small, confined box with the same few people for months or years on end is immensely stressful. Astronauts face the threat of menu fatigue. Imagine eating the same pre-packaged, freeze-dried meals day after day. It leads to a loss of appetite, which means astronauts might not get the calories and nutrients they need, making all the other physical problems even worse. The simple act of growing a plant, of seeing something fresh and green, has been shown to have huge psychological benefits, reducing stress and providing a tangible link back to Earth. So the challenge is clear. How do we keep astronauts healthy, both physically and mentally, on missions that could last for years, with no chance for a quick resupply from home? This is where a revolutionary new field comes into play: astropharmacy. The core idea of astropharmacy is to move away from carrying a massive, heavy stockpile of pre-packaged drugs. For a mission to Mars, you'd have to predict every possible medical emergency and pack the right drugs for it. But many modern medicines, especially complex proteins, have a limited shelf life. They degrade over time, and the constant radiation in space can accelerate this process, making them less effective or even harmful. The logistics are a nightmare. Astropharmacy flips the script. Instead of packing the drugs, why not pack the factory? The idea is to use biological systems, like genetically engineered plants or microbes, as tiny bioreactors to produce specific medicines on demand, right there in the spacecraft or on the surface of Mars. This approach has incredible advantages. First, it drastically reduces the mass and volume you need to launch. Instead of boxes of pills and vials, you carry a lightweight biofoundry with the necessary genetic codes. Second, it solves the shelf life problem. Genetic information can be stored for incredibly long periods without degrading. This means your pharmacy has a virtually infinite shelf life. And third, it offers flexibility. If an unexpected medical issue arises, you could potentially synthesize the right treatment on the spot. NASA and other space agencies are investing heavily in this concept, exploring everything from engineered bacteria to, you guessed it, plants. And this brings us back to our hero crop, rice. Rice is a staple food for billions on Earth. We know how to grow it. We've studied it extensively. And now, scientists are transforming it into the ultimate space crop. A key initiative here is the Moon Rice Project, a collaboration led by the Italian Space Agency. The goal is to engineer a super-dwarf variety of rice, perfectly suited for life in space. This space rice needs to be extremely compact, growing no taller than about 10 centimeters to fit into cramped growth chambers. It needs to be highly productive, yielding a lot of food in a small area. And crucially, it needs to be extra nutritious, specifically packed with protein, to help astronauts combat that muscle atrophy we talked about. Researchers are using tools like CRISPR-Cas9 to tweak the rice's genes, fine-tuning its height, growth speed, and nutritional content. One of their main goals is to increase the size of the protein-rich embryo of the rice grain relative to its starchy part, creating a natural, high-protein food source. But here's where it gets truly brilliant. The same genetic engineering that makes the rice more nutritious can also turn it into a pharmaceutical factory. This concept is called molecular farming. By inserting specific genes into the rice's DNA, scientists can program the plant to produce complex therapeutic proteins. For example, researchers at the University of California, Davis, have already engineered lettuce to produce a parathyroid hormone, or PTH. This hormone stimulates bone growth and could be used as an on-demand treatment for the bone loss astronauts experience. A similar gene could be inserted into space rice. Another example is filgrastim, a drug that stimulates the production of white blood cells. This would be a critical countermeasure to have on hand to treat the effects of radiation exposure. You could even engineer rice to produce specific antibodies to fight off infections, which would be a game changer for an astronaut with a weakened immune system. The beauty of this system is that the medicine is produced right in the food. The therapeutic proteins can be expressed in the edible part of the rice grain. This opens the door to oral delivery, simply eating the rice to get your medicine, which is far less invasive and complex than injections. Your farm is also your pharmacy. Of course, just growing the plants isn't enough. For a truly sustainable habitat on the Moon or Mars, you need a closed-loop ecosystem where everything is recycled. This is the goal of bioregenerative life support systems, or BLSS. Think of it as trying to build a tiny, artificial version of Earth's natural cycles inside a box. A major piece of this puzzle is waste recycling. Human waste and inedible parts of plants are full of valuable nutrients. A BLSS aims to break down this waste and use it as fertilizer for the next generation of crops. The European Space Agency's Melissa project is a leading example. It uses a series of bioreactors filled with microbes to process waste, purify water, regenerate oxygen, and produce food. The waste from one part of the system becomes the resource for the next, creating a self-sustaining loop. Creating these systems is an immense challenge. You have to get the nutrient balance just right. Human urine, for instance, is rich in nitrogen but also high in sodium, which can be toxic to plants. You have to meticulously control for contamination by harmful microbes. And you have to figure out how to manage fluids and water plants in microgravity. But if we can solve these problems, we can create habitats that are truly independent from Earth. As we push forward with these incredible technologies, we also have to confront some serious ethical questions, particularly around the use of genetically modified organisms, or GMOs. Introducing a GMO into a completely closed and isolated environment like a Martian colony requires careful thought. The primary concern is the risk of unintended consequences. We don't fully understand how a genetically modified plant will behave over many generations in the unique, high-stress environment of space. Could unforeseen mutations alter the plant's nutritional value, or worse, cause it to produce something harmful? There's also the risk of genetic escape, where the modified genes could transfer to other organisms in the habitat's ecosystem, like the microbes in the life support system. While the risk is low in a sealed habitat, it's not zero. To manage these risks, we need a robust international framework for the use of GMOs in space, one built on the precautionary principle, scientific evidence, and transparency. The astronauts themselves are another key factor. They will be the farmers and pharmacists of these new worlds, responsible for managing these complex biological systems. This requires a high level of training, autonomy, and psychological resilience. The ability to grow fresh food and make their own medicine will be a huge morale boost, but a system failure could be a source of major stress. The convergence of astropharmacy, genetic engineering, and bioregenerative life support isn't just about solving problems for space travel. It's a powerful engine for innovation that could have profound benefits right here on Earth. The superdwarf, protein-rich rice being developed for the Moon could help fight food insecurity in resource-scarce regions on our own planet. The technology for producing medicines and plants could make life-saving drugs cheaper and more accessible for everyone, especially in developing nations. The lessons we learn from building and managing closed-loop ecosystems in space will give us invaluable insights into how to better manage our own planet's precious and finite resources. As we reach for the stars, we are forced to innovate in ways that redefine what it means to be sustainable. The journey to becoming a multiplanetary species is long and filled with challenges, but it's also filled with promise. With human ingenuity and a little help from a genetically tailored grain of rice, we are sowing the seeds of a future where humanity can thrive, not just on Earth, but out there, in the vast, open frontier of space.